Hi, so I just wanted to share with you some of the materials that I use. And this doesn't mean that you have to get everything I show you. This is just an assortment of things that you can choose from. Whatever you gravitate towards is fine. The only thing I would recommend is, regardless of what company you purchase, do purchase acrylic paints versus oils or watercolors, because some of the exercises that we're going to be doing will require that we do layer upon layer, and acrylics dry faster. So the oils and the acrylic and the watercolors just don't work as well for these type of assignments. But that's really the only suggestion I say that you get. Doesn't really matter what company you buy, but definitely get acrylics. So some of the things I use are oil pastels. Again, don't pay attention to the company. Get whatever's in your area available to you, whether it's through Amazon or Michaels or Blick Supply or Jerry's Adorama or whatever, art supply stores nearby. Those are oil pastels actually. And then you can get an assortment of markers. These are Tombow, which are really highly pigmented. So that's the other thing I would suggest that you look for, regardless of the company. Just maybe purchase a company that is high in pigment, because that actually goes a long way. You don't have to use as much of the product, and you might be happier with the outcome as well. Another thing that you could might be interested in is acrylic markers. I use these occasionally, but to be honest with you, I don't use this whole box. It has a lot of colors in it, and I just tend to use the white and black. So you can always purchase just a white and a black. You don't have to buy a whole box. These come in handy. They're acrylic markers that you can do line work with. This is a shaper. It's just made of rubber, silicone kind of thing. And it's helpful to spread paint around, and it just creates, you can create lines with it. You can smear paint on the paper. It's a really handy tool. And this is one of my favorite tools that I use. The other thing you'll need is some masking tape, whatever type of masking tape you want to get. I would suggest you get some form of painter's tape that doesn't really adhere really tightly, because then you can tear the paper. So some type of painter's tape that has a little bit of less tackiness. So this isn't really too tacky. If you can't find it, you can always take the tape that you have. If it's too tacky, just put it on your clothes and lift it, and then that'll diminish the tackiness of it. So that's a way of getting around it. An assortment of brushes. You don't have to get a lot of brushes, just an assortment of sizes and shapes. So these are really inexpensive. I get these at the local hardware store. They're synthetic and just different shapes. So this one has a little bit of a pointy, rounded edge, and a thinner one for thinner lines. And then this is a different type of shaper. It's also silicone, and this creates a different effect and different mark. Some China markers, black and white again. These are very versatile to create different textures and different marks in the paintings. And these are inexpensive too. You can get these on Amazon as well. Some compressed charcoal or water-soluble charcoal. This you can smear, you can smudge, you can add water to it. You can create a whole bunch of different effects with it. So these come in handy too. It's not very expensive. And one actually goes a long way. This is the only pack I could get, but they last a long time. The other company that I like is it's called Caran d'Ache. And these are highly pigmented crayons, and they come in water soluble and permanent. So so the Neocolor 2 is the water soluble version, and the Neocolor 1 is the permanent version. And that just helps us to create different textures as well. But I love these. These are like a staple of mine. depending on where you're going to be painting, I don't know if you have a space already, you know, relegated for crafts and painting and things like that. But if you don't and you need to kind of protect your surfaces, this is also something you can pick up at the hardware store. It's a thick plastic. I think they call it 4mm plastic. And what I do is I cover my table surfaces with it, and also my garage. In the summertime, I'll cover the wall with this to protect the wall from getting paint on it. And so you can cover your surfaces with this as well. The nice thing about this is that if you put it on your table, you can actually use this as your palette. So you don't even have to use a palette when you have something like that. If, however, you want a traditional palette, you can always get a traditional palette. If you do go with a traditional palette, I would recommend you get something that's gray, because it helps you to tell value of the color better than if you put it on white. Anything on top of white is going to look high contrast, but on top of the gray, you'll be able to tell the value of the color better. So whatever company you get doesn't matter. I just would recommend you get a gray one versus a white one. And then as far as the paper is concerned, I would recommend you get, this is a Strathmore, but again, you can get a different company. Try to get the mixed media though, because the mixed media paper tolerates water content better, and even collage, I feel, works better with the mixed media paper. It's a little sturdier, and I'll show you the thickness of it. So see, it's thicker. You can certainly get watercolor paper, and a lot of acrylic painters use watercolor paper as well. Just know that it's not going to be as thick, and so sometimes you might have to apply a layer of gesso first to make it a little bit thicker and able to take the acrylic paint a little better. But that's perfectly fine too. If that's all you can get, that's good. So these are the basics. Obviously you need a tub to put water in so you can clean your brushes. Definitely get some paper towels. And I have two types of paper towels. This one is thick. It almost feels like a fabric. In the United States, it's similar to a Viva product. But also I have the thin ones for different purposes. But this one comes in handy, especially to create wet palettes, which I have a movie about, a video about, sorry, down below in the bonus section. And I show you how to do the wet palettes. And there's different reasons as to whether you want a dry palette or a wet palette, but that's further along down the line. So these are some of the basic things, and I just wanted to show you around some of my studios. So they're not really studios, so areas of my home depending on the season. I'm from New England in the United States, so we have drastic changes in our seasons. So in the summertime, I love painting in the garage, you know, on a wall outdoors, and in the wintertime, I'm in the basement. So I just wanted to give you a few ideas as to how you can prepare your space depending on where you live and where you come from. Okay, so here we are in my basement studio where I come in the winter time because it's too cold outside in New England. So as you can see, I've been painting for a long time, for many years, so I've accumulated a lot of products. So I don't want you to get overwhelmed because you don't need all of this stuff if you're just starting out. And as you know, as time progresses and passes, you'll be collecting things that you might enjoy too. But that just comes with time. I wanted to show you the journal that I would suggest you get. I think this is probably an 8x11 journal, and it has a hardcover, and the paper inside is a little thicker, so you know it accepts. It works well with water or tape or collage, and you can write in it, and you can put your paintings in it. Take some notes, some of the exercises. You can, you know, write in here. So this is kind of a collection of everything that you might be doing in the course. It can all go into here. So that's a good journal to get. It's kind of heavy duty. Another one that I have on the side is just one that I write, you know, my thoughts in sometimes. I have a few of these small ones, observations, whatever. You can have a small one on the side for that. This is actually a painting I'm reworking. And this is the plastic that I showed you earlier, that 4mm plastic that you can put on top of your tables. And you can actually just use this as a palette while you're painting. I often do. And the reason that's a good idea to use sometimes is that when you use that plastic, you can actually collect some of these old palettes. Instead of throwing them away, you can use them as collage pieces. And that's why sometimes I prefer to use put the paint on the plastic, because then I can pull it off. And there's a video that shows you how to do that. What else? Okay, as far as the paints go, I have the acrylic paints. The company that's my favorite is Nova Color. They're out of California, and their paints are the perfect consistency. They're not too hard, they're not too liquidy, and their pigments are really good, and they're very affordable considering how good of a paint they are. Another good company is Golden. Of course, Golden is very good. It's a little pricey, but you can't go wrong with Golden. These are the gloss mediums that I'll be referring to. So mine I get from Golden. It's a gloss medium, and we can mix it with the paint to make the paint go further. So that's actually a way of saving paint. You don't have to use as much paint. But also we can use it as in collage to glue things down to the paper, and we can also use it to seal a painting. So this is very versatile. I also have the regular gel gloss, and that's when you have a bigger piece of collage that you might want to glue onto the paper. This comes handy for that as well, but either one is fine. So those are kind of the basics. Let me see, I have a gesso too. I do like to use gesso. Sometimes I use gesso instead of white paint because it just creates more texture. So that's something that you might want to consider. And here are the tapes I was talking about. I have things like this which help me create texture in the paintings. I even use a sandpaper sometimes to scrape off some paint. These are different spreaders that create different lines and different textures. I like looking around for just average things that we use day to day. This was like packaging that came in, and I really like the effect that it creates when I put paint on it and kind of use it as a stamp. So, you know, even things around you, whether it's outside, you know, branches, or I've even used, you know, like produce leaves, cabbage leaf, which, you know, creates nice textures. So, so this is the space, and I have everything all over the place right now to show you, but usually this is all clear, and I usually work on the surface, or if I have my palette on the surface, I'll work on the wall, or sometimes at an easel. But you don't need an easel. In fact, I prefer working either on the table or on the wall. It's just easier for me. But so that's it. I hope that's helpful. I do have a list of the items down below. If you have any questions or have trouble finding something, please let me know, and just you know, shoot me an email, and I'd be happy to answer any questions you have.